Vocabio. Master English your way.
With KYC AML information is that it doesn't stop the problem, it moves the problem. So in forcing...
My wife has relatives and the like without stopping at least once or twice. And
doing their job if all they try to do is stop innovation. But at the same time, when Uber or any startup says...
It's such an adrenaline rush that I wasn't able to stop and appreciate them at the time. But
very much and burnout. So I think that we have to stop being so black and white with
on autonomy when it's the Russian security services who control who enters and who leaves the territory, where this ostensibly
maybe 2013, we've entered this decade of just crushing dismay.
Completely changes politics, that we are entering a new political era entirely.
Actually watching via the live stream, you can enter a question by typing it into the chat box and it will come through to...
And I think you can give examples of states that entered into wars where the burden simply became too much for them. And then
it takes a long time to turn a complex image into something.
Because for me, that was a turning point in my life when I saw this giant spider by Louise Bourgeois.
Local nationalism, but also rise of Russian nationalism that turned out to be as destructive for
36-page reports of pandemic preparedness can turn out not to be, because they've got an excessively...
The word of God. Christianity came along and turned the Jewish homeland into the
left-right political spectrum. You want to go first?
Yeah, so I think that we have in Italy, the Italians will want their freedom back. And they'll rebel from Rome,
like driving on a road, or something. And you wanted to execute a U-turn. You want to turn the needle.
I have to keep running OpenAI in the middle of that. I just wanted to crawl into a cave and
accounting, so people kind of reported however they wanted to. Today, there's no standardized ESG reporting, and people report
in order to rotate your needle around in order to see every single star in the sky. How small a volume
to prevent emotion from boiling. For this, I saw the value in not interfering with the passion of the exchange.
3, under Hoover, the difference was Hoover was seen as this do-nothing joke who would...
Alongside my father was in the business, and I saw the joy that it brought to them. So I think I had these...
Right? I was planning on it.
Exactly. But having seen some of your work and just... and people can watch it presumably on YouTube or listen to it on audio. But if you're talking to...
you could be arrested or not. And I said, listen to what you're saying. You're saying the U.S. government has
Now, who do you vote into power? They will not listen to you. They would listen to the people who pay.
Some of us go to scary movies. Some of us listen to songs that make us weep. Some people enjoy BDSM.
A practical tip for people who are listening is that you should be doing that at least 90 minutes a week.
Moving in a deliberate direction, history having a goal, a direct.
I'm willing to be corrected on this. Look, I'm having a volition now. I'm having a thought. I'm going to move my right hand.
Than others to catastrophe. And without having you spill the beans at the beginning, I am going to ask you.
Except for all the others that have been tried. I say that having lived in the former Soviet Union, where I did my research.
Teenagers. Having said that, I am magnificently inspired, in particular.
That you could turn the needle around, and in so doing, it would pass through every intermediate direction.
Is this in the tradition? This is a first time for me doing something like this in a foreign language. It was Red Dead Redemption 2, in your opinion, is the best thing you've ever done. I think there's a strong case to be made that it's the greatest, and the deep roots of those ideas. When done well, this gives us a chance to really hear out the guest.
Realistic AI photos, and it was Stable Diffusion by itself is not doing that well. Like the faces look all mangled.
Yep.
Given that, somehow he also finds time for music, spending his Sundays composing
to improve. All that said, I find that this no tough questions criticism
strain. And so what we found was basically that there have been.
How do we know this is true? And then we work out how to find out if it is true, how to falsify it if it isn't true.
With young people wanting to come in and find out how they can contribute using the web.
Analysis is the individual, what's good for the individual, what works for the individual, and they're
understanding of society kind of
mathematics has contributed groundbreaking work to a truly astonishing range of fields in math, and to discuss in detail how stuff works and what the implications are. Let me in the world today working on understanding and building intelligence, and who you're considering working with.
Yeah.
She says she wants to get debt falling in 5 years' time. Well, debt is high, debt interest payments are high.
Crowded accommodation, or you've lost your job, you're falling into debt. We have to continuously remind ourselves of the very...
Been your first fight, but when did you fall in love with fighting? The art of it, the science of it?
In my organization has to fall to my right foot as a diasporic African, if you like.
Colonies. So anyway, Germany falls after the First World War.
Our past, you say that it gives us an illusion of stability.
Freedom as his core value, like his God, as he says. And so freedom does connect back to the individual.
For like the average man. And basically he says that you have to understand the difference between price.
Ed Barnhart. Let me say that Ed represents the kind of archaeologist.
Manner, and that also, what would you say, deepens and broadens the scope, and that's
looking ourselves down. And I think that we need to sort of really seize the moment and think that we have strategic advantage.
Which leg do I need to touch? Help me!
That are heavily defended because, for instance, a giant anteater needs claws to fight off a jaguar. A stingray.
Country and return to duty. Did I need to get them evacuated? Usually it would be to...
of the job, and then you just need that remaining 10%. I think as a PhD...
even have like these trash cans that are just like pop-up ones that you
can... Be green to reduce plastic, to only use cans. We put together essentially a toolkit that can be shared with similar...
Fail, but they aren't a health risk. Canned foods can stay safe for years, so long as they don't...
in the can. So most cans of pickled jalapenos that you buy will have some carrot.
Symbolized by the billionaire class, perhaps serve to stifle wider economic growth.
And Americans first came in with this idea that anybody who had served in any role, who had been a member of the Nazi Party,
real estate in order to serve the national goal, and that sort of engineering has not always
of what religion is there to serve. There is something a little macho in atheism.
To die for king and country, or to serve king and country, with the implication being that you might have to die.
I've done so much more earlier, so that perhaps if we'd been pushing for human challenge trials like years before, we actually could have.
By the way, Russia was the one pushing this narrative. We always responded.
And of course, about massive numbers of people being pushed into extreme poverty, which they may struggle to.
For people in London to be pushing these things at us, because Oxfordshire isn't volunteering for the nuclear waste.
And a good portion of the country pushed into malnutrition and starvation. And yet, it was the 250...
What happens to the hole in the donut when you've eaten the rest of the donut? And they get these absolutely wonderful...
Japanese students eat sushi, or only Japanese sushi chefs create sushi.
Middle East and Africa, and host of the podcast Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat, in which he...
global energy usage, that would basically eat probably a lot of the, basically inefficient.
And, a smaller nation can get completely eaten up. How do those smaller nations...
going to go wrong, I'm going to be left destitute. Well, that's probably what's going to manifest in your life, because you're going to...
Can you imagine if I lose, I'll have to leave the country? So I find myself thinking that he's actually more likely to scuttle.
Made hundreds of paintings during her lifetime. She left behind 30,000 pages of notes, and they're just extraordinary.
The other days is because I want to leave the door open for the next man, and the door's green. Ha ha, pun. Get it? See what I did?
Now, Joe Biden is the oldest candidate in
work, being in your car, going out for a drink for your friends, going out for dinner, all of that stopped.
It's not easy. Much easier to say, drink 4 glasses of wine today and you'll live 4
really spicy foods in your mouth, and then you drink some cool beer and you feel great. You might go into a hot sauna.
Warning for excessive drinking from a doctor was when I was 17.
Banana or a coconut you can eat or drink or whatever. It's just a story we tell ourselves. We are the only animal or world.
Acts with anything but kindness, and always walked through the fire of it all with grace.
These are the hills across which Coleridge walked. These were the lake poets. And actually,
sustainable forms of transport, cycling, walking, all the concentration was on electric vehicles.
They've made a number of demands that it's going to be very hard to walk back on, and that it's going to be very difficult for Joe Biden, even if he
to put on a yarmulke and go and sort of walk around them just to see if anyone hassled me, which is the kind of idiotic thing I'd like to do.
Here's, of course, Neil Ferguson. Neil has taught at a variety of distinguished institutions. That would include my own institution.
An engineer by training, Dave Evans teaches the popular Designing Your Life courses at Stanford, and is the
way she has, and been taught to be sensible and polite and so on. And also discuss
complaining in women, particularly because so often we're taught not to speak out, told to like just tell ourselves we're...
Everything that I'd been taught in school about English history, about this.
And if they take the bus, they might have to pay or whatever. So it's virtually free for them to use.
Anodyne, and it'll have on the back, it'll have their details, and it'll say who paid for it and who printed and all the rest of it. That's called an imprint.
$15 billion he was willing to pay for Ukraine to join his Euro-Asia.
For a couple of reasons. One, obviously, because we pay close attention to the regulatory stuff out of our fund. The second,
every business, for instance, should firms pay suppliers more, even though it reduces their margins?
Which touched it for drama was going to performance.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which might touch some sensibilities. I want her to feel despised.
For scientists whose work touched on distributive or retributive justice in some way.
Secondary theme for us to touch on, which is exactly what kinds of states and actors.
250 report card, it reads incredibly well. In the first 3,000 years.
About it several months ago because I thought that's a book I need to read.
Oh, thank you. I'm never quite sure. People always seem to have.
I've got a copy of it here. I've read it. I've written about it. I would highly recommend it.
A hobby. And Alan, I just want to actually read just a small extract of the book and then ask.
That string of adjectives was democratic. And having read the book, it doesn't seem to me that you necessarily.
And I have to say, I really warmed, Rory, to your description of struggling over those deadlines.
I'm going to open up for all of you to get involved as well. Please do warm up all of your questions and start putting them into the chat.
Dispatches on the ultra rich. Evan, very warm welcome to you.
Oh, thanks very much, Carl. It's great to be with you.
Rather than the, like warm lager case, right? It is actually
car industry. Emissions will fall, but of course, global warming will go up if you import the steel from China.
Are multiplied by the weights and added together. So think of it as just flowing forward in
people around the city each day. To add to this, there were yet more horse-drawn.
For the people of Bristol. I mean, taking it down or adding a plaque has been a conversation for years. Why has it taken us?
Whether we keep with the triple lock, but that could easily add another 2 or 3% of national income to
simplistic approach. We buy drugs and sell drugs, but we add transparency to it, and bringing transparency to an
as much as possible. Keeping your options open is a really kind of good way to really good way to go forward.
AI, especially open source AI, can make them smarter.
An artist. Similarly, a curator called Zoe Whitley, who completely opened my eyes. She's now the director of Chisholm.
The future is radically open. What happens in the universe is underdetermined by...
have now just been ripped wide open.
Yeah, well, I want to come back to...
This is a first time for me doing something like this in a foreign language. It was challenging.
Big and stay big in many cases. Start huge companies like Danny and Colin, the case, are DC.
Open weight model, and it's a instruction model like what you would use in ChatGPT.
There is a perception of corruption. People like Donald Trump and Elon Musk really care.
Thing and all that, and then he shows code, and in the code it's like abstract class node or whatever it was. I can't remember.
Of the previous president. That's, for example, just to pick an issue on which I think, it's
all about hip hop. and meditation and picking psilocybin mushrooms in public parks and stuff like that.
Conversations that they could pick up when they were younger around parents talking about money.
And that journey may still be continuing, but let's pick up on a couple of things you mentioned there. So his background, his parents are
obviously stylish. I thought I'd just pick up a couple of points there to question.
It's essential to avoid sunbathing at all costs because these simple precautions.
With local people swimming, sunbathing, snorkeling, truly island paradise.
I mean, as the holiday progressed, I would sunbathe. I love sunbathing, obviously with sunscreen on, but
after your plans, for example, and it makes you unhappy if you want to sunbathe. Okay? And so the event itself has no...
The holiday progressed, I would sunbathe. I love sunbathing, obviously with sunscreen on, but my...
Anywhere near the time or the stage when this started off for the first...
Don't tap you. They keep going. Sometimes you tap, reset, start.
Was that once the Germans started to run out of men
and blow up into a full-scale war, starting from a simple sentence like "Good morning."
Or something to do that well. So, but I started seeing these base models, these fine-tuned models, and people
in our lives. So, how would we even know that wearing shoes was a big deal?
She doesn't want it to be diluted. You know, one of her favorite sayings was, you know, it's earlier than
number of computers that you add. So you added, 10,000 computers, but you would like it to go what?
How do you normally talk to him?
I don't know. Normally by the sea. The same as with you. He invites you to
Intelligence Security Service, generally known as the Okrana or Okrank.
In our possessions, but most wills don't include an invaluable asset.
The deformation of that wall is willed as much as it is discovered. The banding.
Inshallah, I mean, God willing, mashallah, as God wills, and alhamdulillah.
Do for them and for the rest of society. If we punish them in some way, put them in prison or whatever.
Seeing some very challenging battles in Europe and in the rest of the world, and Nick Clegg's experience.
America are so influential to the rest of the world that it's important.
Details, and let's say who paid for it and who printed it and all the rest of it. That's called an imprint. All physical pieces of election.
Things like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft and all the rest. Does it reflect the risk-taking and drive?
Had the guts in the ring and the guts to take a stand.
100%.
When it was hard.
He might be.
Team have been outspoken advocates for taking the topic of AI safety very seriously.
Height of that war. And unfortunately, we took a lot of casualties.
Yeah, for sure. So beyond this idea that Milton Friedman takes a while to come to his justification.
Massacres them. He is a military genius. Rome takes a year, raises a second army. We know this story.
Am I surprised that the Republicans are going to keep the majority in the Senate, which I think is likely to be the case?
I found that the way I could best keep track of history in real time was just to...
Was everything. So respect for property meant that you keep them where they are, which was...
This class and a professional class at the top that keeps securing its own benefits, its own place. And
No, finish. Keep going.
He's feeling the pitch, yaw, roll, and orientation on his skin. And
because of the extent to which he is rolling back democracy in India. A couple of other examples.
In the last 7 days, we've watched tanks rolling into Ukraine. We've watched the horrors of war unfold.
On battlefields like in Syria, it's Russia that's rolled out a set of new hypersonic missiles that has the most...
That would have enabled us to have rolled out the vaccine kind of months in advance. And that would have been...
Donald Trump, which was not a given. In fact, it almost didn't happen. And when you look around the world at...
Power, in large part, comes from the fact that you can give it access to all of your stuff and give it permission to do
it. And push our dates back and give us whole new civilizations we had no idea.
That are waiting to be administered and kind of given out to people who are willing to take on that agenda.
People are born into certain positions in society that gives them a certain relationship to power. The powerful forces.
And so I just sat there and I watched it. And I had the exact same experience in Heavens Forbid by Soft.
No, it was funny.
The most expensive thing I own is this watch, and it was given to me as a gift.
Yeah. When I was on
Chats with Bricks is probably pretty funny watching it with you.
I think what it provides for me that nothing.
Republicans, it was really amazing to watch, ended up saying, no, we see.
And was it, so as you're watching all of this, like, Sheila, was there
We're not going to get in your way. However, in return, we will expect you to kick a certain amount of your
banks, and earning a zero real rate of return is another, or putting to the roller coaster stock market.
A stable democracy, or to return to autocracy and then to rebuild the empire.
More tolerance, and we've seen a return to a much more sort of ideological style, much greater part.
Our principal program director is actually in the room. He's just returned from Bunce Island, and maybe we'll
realistic. They would have bodies that actually made sense, like body anatomy.
So you're the perfect person to ask, what makes a great entrepreneur?
Somebody who's...
They somehow develop the idea of the basis of writing, which means that you can make a sign.
Capabilities are increasing. It does make you think that we'll get there by 2026 or 2027.
Rap, public parks.
Yeah, I was making like conscious rap music. Like I was to the point where I had like 4 dream
worth, and you have to kind of weigh it. He talked about the difference between the stock.
A few folks told me she has probably talked with Claude more than any human at Anthropic. And privately, when I announced that I would be talking with Tucker. For people who think I shouldn't do
into the nuclear stem, 300-mile-an-hour winds. You're talking about people miles out getting sucked.
Alex, Aviv, Amanda.
Talking is gonna win. Just be quiet and go to the Mets.
TV show I did called Dance Moms. And I had the fortune of doing that show.
Howard, when the thunder started rolling, they danced for rain. They would copulate in the fields to ensure a good harvest.
Poetry and music and dance, the same Aztec.
Those who argue that free speech is under threat too often dance around the actual words being said, and they treat speech.
So museum party dancing with my friend Seppi allowed me to let.
And then we have anatomically modern humans, and I think the earliest anatomically modern human skeletal.
Talk about self-modifying software. I just built it. I actually think vibe coding is a slur.
You prefer agentic?
It's that global nature of it, and I just think where there's war, there is always incredible.
On chip scale design to now rack scale design, and I think it's fair to say that winning for NVIDIA
are increasing. It does make you think that we'll get there by 2026 or 2027. I think
in the way that we live and work. The International Labour Organization estimates that the energy
winning more and more living space, and with analogy to other frontiers.
There were people in the Middle East, individuals who lived between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, who had
no change in standard of living. Since then, it's grown by 37 times.
But you can catch up with the live audience results on the Intelligence Squared podcast. So
thought would find it useful, and it's now grown to, I think it's not quite at 900 slides yet.
Platform allowing entrepreneurs to start up, run and grow a business. Hi there, Harley.
Hey, Anne, great.
In a really globally competitive instant messaging industry. They grew the business. It's now 2.5 billion people.
Story of Art, who I love, and it was one of my favourite books growing up, and I think it's fantastic. But he didn't include a woman until the 60s.
This is in the energy sector. When I was growing up, there was no talk about.
I might come in partway through the event rather than at the beginning, considering how many there actually are. But having had a chance to.
So we're going to begin with an opening speech from each of our.
And I've had a rather heretical view on this from the very beginning, so we can talk about that a little bit.
Totally different. And it tends to be biased by the beginning and the end, and he talks about the peak.
Over with today.
I know.
But at least it's beginning.
But psychologically, I know what you mean. You almost, if it's an ordeal, you'd rather.
Trying to solve is you would like to go faster than the number of computers that you add.
Is of equivalent value. I've returned recently, and I'm going to do a course on
to the work of this Romanian.
For days under FDR, the sheer amount of legislation that went through, his ability to bring Congress to heel and the Senate.
In England called Sam Bradshaw, and he went away for 4 years, and when he came home, he'd been twice wounded.
To figure out what's going on inside, inferring behaviors from neural activity.
People were walking to me like pointing their fingers like, don't speak about CSU, don't speak about the army. Huh? We love you now.
First, Susan Blackmore is going to speak for the motion. Free will is an illusion.
Marked. And that's in marked contrast, so to speak, to many of the books I read now, where...
So, Peter, you are going to speak first for 6 minutes. I'm reasonably strict about that.
Exmoor, Dartmoor. George is going to speak for 7 minutes, so would you like to start now?
Thanks. And you look closely. This is one of the things I would always tell my students, is that there are two Russian...
If you remember some event and then I tell you something about the event, later on...
The overall argument, I haven't told you the answer. I think the answer is...
Where pointy-headed, geeky, 50-year-old rich white men tell the world what's wrong with it and how to put it to rights.
Go by your nephew. Tell us about the Lego journey for someone, Emma, who is...
Vocabio, available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.